Dia ditch, dia smura ditch, kajay maratatu. Tomagamai, Gurumahagatagas tu fain, Tomagamai. My name's Poddy, this is the Podscast, and I went to my first Irish class this week. Could you tell? How's my pronunciation? Is it dreadful? I'm not sure anymore. I've learnt a bit of Irish over the years. I've picked up odd phrases and words here. They're mostly quite philosophical in nature. There's been a lot of, there's no soul for a country without its native tongue, or broken Irish is better than perfect English. It's all very profound in nature, but now I'm learning actual like hello, how are you type things, and I'm realizing very quickly that the accent that I've been doing it in is either perfectly fine in a different dialect or is completely far off what I should be doing. So it's nice to learn that, particularly in conjunction with Kieran learning Gaelic and seeing how differently words that look near identical can be pronounced. For instance, we've got Mudgin Y, I think, for good morning. TBC, because I've got the lesson tonight, so I'll come back next week and tell you whether my pronunciation actually is as good as I remember it being. But it's Madin Va for Gaelic, so there you go. First tangent of the day. Welcome to Podscast. This is my weekly podcast in diary format where I tell you everything that's been going on over the last week, and a fair amount has been going on over the last week. I've just immediately closed the browser that I had all my notes open in. Their headlines are I went to Blackpool over the weekend, or more the beginning of the week rather than the weekend, I think is a more accurate descriptor. I went to a new Zumba instructors class and a new spin class. So we'll have updates on whether I enjoyed that or whether it was just all pain, no gain. I'm going to give a greater update on what happened on the Hindu, because I got so sidetracked that I only covered what happened in the first 2 days, covering the Irish class that I went to for the first time last week, which I erroneously believed was the first lesson. In fact, that had been the week before, but seemingly they'd not covered a huge amount of ground, so I was able to catch up fairly quickly. And other mishaps along the way that I have made notes of. Oh, my latest deep dive obsession, which is actually Kieran's, but now I've got really on board with it, and I've been thinking about it a lot. In the meantime, roll titles. So before I begin, I have to introduce you to two pieces of set decor if you're watching. Here we have Feathers McGraw. Feathers McGraw, the villain of much of the Wallace and Gromit franchise, not least Wallace and Gromit The Wrong Trousers, and Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Foul. That's the one. So I went to Blackpool, as I have just stated. We went on the Wallace and Gromit ride twice. That was an absolute joy. Oh my goodness, I felt giddy. It felt like re-entering childhood. We were applauding all the way around. We were pointing when we saw Feathers. We were jumping when the were-rabbit jumped out. It was an immaculately designed ride, and I've not laughed that hard in a long time. It was very fulfilling for my spirit. And afterwards, I got quite overwhelmed when we went to the gift shop, and I saw a lot of Aardman Animations merchandise. You may or may not know, I'm a massive Aardman Animations fan. Wallace and Gromit The Wrong Trousers is on my Letterboxd top 4, which my mum was like, I don't really get that. Like, I like Wallace and Gromit, but to be in your top 4, that's kind of crazy. I don't know. It makes me feel so proud to be British. I get a real sense of patriotic euphoria watching that. It's so immaculately designed, curated. There's so much love in the visuals of Wallace and Gromit. I think it's very specific to the culture of the UK in general, but of Lancashire, of what are they, the Wigan, West Wallaby Drive in Wigan. TBC, gotta fact check that one. I love the specificity of it, the humor, the references to cheese and whatnot. I love in the most recent installment when there's the bit where they're having the fight on the canal boat, and there's a sign saying Lancashire, keep out, and then on the other side it says Yorkshire, no, you keep out. I think that's beautiful, and I particularly think that Feathers McGraw is one of the great cinematic villains of our time. Whilst being entirely silent, I think that's such an incredible feat to create such a heinous villain without one single line of dialogue. Feathers also, personally for me, looks a lot like my dog Beanie. There's a vacancy in the eyes. They're sort of very beady. There's not a lot of spirit showing through them, and that's very similar to my dog. So I got quite emotional seeing a Feathers McGraw toy in person. I would say a lot of the merchandise I had the complaint of the fact that they didn't quite capture the essence of the characters, which is difficult to do in an inanimate object anyway. But I think the eyes aren't quite right on my little feathers, which, by the way, was the cheapest feathers they had. I was like, I just can't justify spending £15 on a Feathers McGraw. I think the eyes aren't quite big enough. And also, maybe it's just I can't remember seeing animated feathers head on, but the rubber glove that's on this chicken's head just looks quite alarming when it's viewed straight on. It's like when you see pictures of Homer Simpson straight on, his eyes are facing forward. It's really odd, but either way, it's a very sweet little addition to set decor. So Feathers is going to sit right by my microphone here, and drum roll please, I got the most coveted, beloved, worshipped piece of merchandise perhaps in British filmmaking history. I got the Gromit mug. Guys, I got the Gromit mug. I got the Gromit mug from the meme. I got the Gromit mug from the meme. There he is. Oh, it makes me really happy to have it. That said, I have some complaints, again pertaining to the translation of the distinct Aardman Animations design into ceramic form. Now, on the box, I didn't necessarily have this qualm, but the eyes, again, are very small, and they looked on the box as though they were looking down, which I think gives him an air of wisdom, of being well read, that you don't get in the ceramic form. He looks like a deer caught in the headlights. He looks very surprised, and I don't think that's the emotion that I would have wanted to capture of grommets in ceramic form necessarily. The ear that has become the handle is really rather chunky, so you either have to commit to having 3 fingers there and resting the weight on your pinky, or ramming your pinky inside the tiny mug hole. The biggest qualm of all, though, is the fact that there's what I want to call a gallery inside this mug, the little sort of lip overhang. And I don't know whether I'm right to call it a gallery, because I have been watching a lot of Great British Pottery. Is it just called the Great Pottery Throwdown? Great Pottery Throwdown with Siobhan McSweeney, who's fabulous. God, what a joy that program is, by the way. I was watching that and I had the piss taken out of me by Mackenzie Buds, who runs Red Lights, and Jordan and Kieran. It's a fantastic program. They were taking the piss because the guy who's a judge, whose name now escapes me, just based on his physicality, he looks like he could sort you out if you're crossing him, if you mean to upset him. He'd be a good bouncer, that's what I'm trying to say. He's quite a stocky lad. He's tall, but he has none of the bouncer energy. He's on the spectrum of bouncer to absolute caramel scented pussycat. He's off the scale on that side. He's got a heart of gold and he cries all the time. He cried at a ladle in the first episode. He got really overwhelmed by that. Cried at bookends. He cried at a tagine. Oh, he cries all the time and I love it. Anyway, side note. So they were creating, I think it was when they were making tagines, and they had to create a gallery, which is the little lip bit that comes inside the actual vessel itself, and that's the layer on which you rest the lid. Now, that was a really long-winded way to say I think that's what that's called. Either way, it's a really thick lip around this mug, and that makes actually imbibing what's on the inside quite difficult. Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to say this now. So what's happened is I've turned around the monitor so that I can see myself and check whether I'm in frame correctly. That's really distracting me because I just keep looking over and going, God, my outfit looks really good. My outfit looks so good. So I might just take 10 seconds to turn that monitor around so I stop looking at myself and actually look down the barrel of the camera. Bear with me one moment. So it's quite difficult to actually imbibe the contents of the mug. I was having to just tip it full on like that, like I was a hamster suckling at the water bottle of my cage to try and get the liquid out of it when I was having my cup of tea this morning. The difficulty being, if you try and turn it the other way around, then all the liquid goes into Grommet's massive nose. So that's an absolute dead end. But it's nice to own this anyway, the absolute epitome of fine china, and it has got my little brand San Pellegrino fizzy water in it currently, because I remember to bring fizzy water, or just liquid in general, because of how much I coughed last week. So hopefully there'll be fewer foibles of that genre. Okay, should we begin with Irish class, given that that's where I started anyway? So I went to an Irish class last week, and it's part of my new initiative to try to make a friend. I'm finding it quite difficult in my middle 20s to make friends. I had a little cry last night because and to be honest, I feel quite on edge, and it may well be the case that I cry again soon, because I'm finding friendships hard right now. I don't think I lend myself very well to the act of having long distance friendships. I find not having in-person quality time very difficult. And when I look back on the happiest times of my life, one of the happiest times of my life was the first term of my final year of uni, when I was in rehearsals almost every day. I was hanging out with gorgeous darling Molly Jones the majority of the time. Our friendship really bloomed and blossomed, and it was such a joyous time because I didn't have to do the organizing of when we were going to have to hang out with each other. That was just incidental. We were always around each other, and it made sustaining a friendship so easy because you didn't have to worry about it. Now, in the days of me having to organize when I'm going to go down, coordinate schedules with other people, coordinate when I'm going to call, keep up with texts. I hate texts. I really hate texts. I hate being on phone. It doesn't suit me. I'm learning more and more that I think quality time is my major love language when it comes to friendships, certainly. And it's when I have my big cries up here, and I was talking to my mum about it, and she was like, you just really need to have, don't cry now, it begins. You really need to have a friend up there that is your friend that you can go to and hang out with. And that's what I'm struggling to do, because I don't know where anyone is. Where is everyone? What are we doing in the evenings? Where are we hanging out? Because it's so expensive to be going to like bars all the time to try and meet people in a platonic way. What's everyone doing? You know, I've not found anyone in Zumba because everyone's quite a bit older than me in Zumba. The same has gone for spin class so far. And I went to Irish class thinking maybe there'd be people my age. You know, it's a free thing on a Wednesday evening, and there's a big push among our generation at the minute to learn Irish. Well, you know, not for everyone, people that actually do have a connection to Irish, to learn Irish. So I thought maybe there'd be people there that are my age. That phone made me jump. And there wasn't, which is fine. It was also a way smaller class than I thought it was going to be. And it turned out that like the majority of people who were at this class were from Ballymena. Two of them knew each other already. One of them did, like, just by absolute coincidence, the Ballymena Massive had shown up for this Irish class. And everyone there had been to sort of a school with nuns or a school with priests, and all the Irish they knew was like the Lord's Prayer, doing the mass in Irish, that kind of thing. And mine's there, like, you know, our day will come. No, not that one. What else? Where's the toilet? That's a bit of Irish that I've got. President. I knew president. That impressed people. The fact that I already did know the sort of pleasantries, a few of the pleasantries, impressed people. So I was there for different reasons. Obviously, I was there because my friends at Trinity have taught me some. Shout out to the gang. Shout out to Quiva and Peter and Laith and Andrew and John and Bridgine and Erica and Laura and Hamna and everyone else. Shout out to the Trinity Massive for teaching me bits of Irish, and I've really missed learning a language. I wanted to solidify it and learn the grammar in a practical setting, because my big issue with trying to learn it on Duolingo was that it wasn't explaining the grammar to me. It wasn't explaining when the uru and the shevu and whatnot come in, and it didn't even tell you like what gender any of the nouns are or that kind of thing, where you just need someone to actually explain it to you and break it down. So I went along to that, and it was really fun. The guy Evan is a really charming teacher, and I've got my big list of extra vocab that he taught us, including, I want to say, Bula Boss. For round of applause, that one's good. He's like, Bula fucking Boss. That was great. So all that to say, I've learnt some Irish, and I've got my little sheet that has a prepared conversation that I'm going to now perform for you all. And feedback is welcome on the accent, pronunciation, emphasis, all the rest of it, general performance, accent. So do let me know whether I actually sound Irish at all. Irwaila Jock, Bawailam, Kajay Bawailat, Bawailam Fion Ledahul, Irwailat Glinja Fion Gal, Nearwailam Barliam Glinja Fion Jarrig, Carcalor Shadich, Guramayagat, Nahabare, Kajay Balatza, Kajay Bamala, Kajay Bawailatza, Irwailat Kupante, no cafe, Bawailam Kupante, Ledahul, and Jogan to Bonya no Shukra, Togan Bonya, ach ni hugam Shukra, Fiberby, Shadich, Guramayagat, Nahabare. There we go. So I've got my next lesson tonight, and we'll see how I do. But so far, that's not been a vessel for me to meet people my age. Fingers crossed that I find a new way to do that, because I am quite desperate to make new friends. I keep getting little clips on TikTok and Instagram of people celebrating their birthdays in really interesting ways. They're sort of milestone birthdays. And I've seen a couple of people now who've celebrated their 25th with a quarter quell theme, and everyone comes dressed as a Hunger Games character. And I'd love to do that. I just actually don't know enough people up in Scotland to make that happen. And it feels like quite a big ask to get everyone that I love in England to come and dress up as Seneca Crane to appease me. So stay tuned on whether I can make a friend. The reason my voice is going so funny is I'm trying really hard to keep it together because I'm on my period right now and it's beating the living shit out of me. It's a week early as well, which I didn't expect. So I had a real crash out on Friday in large part because I was trying to enter this competition that I had opened the tab for months ago. And I'm like, oh, the window's open for ages. I don't need to worry about that for ages. And then I just suddenly woke up in the dead of night in a cold sweat going, oh shit, that deadline's today. And so I was trying to write this entry into this competition and I just felt so uninspired. I hadn't got anything. I had an idea that would have been okay. And then I did some research into the topic at hand and found out that the person who's judging this competition is actually heavily involved in a project involving this piece of IP. So I was like, oh, fuck. Damn, I can't write about Adrian Mole. Never mind. What else do I like? So I ended up writing it on the topic of silliness. It was a column I had to write, and how I feel really optimistic that silliness as a comedic genre is coming back. With the advent of things like SNL being really silly at the minute, and Satellites Flats a couple of years ago, which I genuinely think people will look back on in 50 years in the way that we look back on Fawlty Towers now as being such a milestone in the history of comedy. Because I think post Fleabag there was a real era of sadcom, which I love. I love a sadcom, but that became the monopoly over the world of comedy, and it was, there was a real sense that the currency in the world of TV comedy was your similarity to Fleabag. And so it did become quite homogenous, which is a shame because I love the variety of funniness that we have in this country. So I'm really happy to see silliness coming back, particularly now that people who are raised on horrible histories are now entering their middle 20s. I think the people that are making comedy now are the ones that have been influenced by that particular genre of daftness. So that's something that I'm enjoying, but I just couldn't make it work, and it was getting too analytical the way that I was writing. And then I was going, I'm writing stuff that everyone else has said. There's nothing original in this. This could be anyone's Substack. There's nothing about it. And it wasn't until sort of 10:30 at night, bearing in mind the deadline was 23:59, that I went, there's no fucking jokes in this. I'm writing about being silliness, and it's the driest piece of writing. And I was getting so het up, and I had a couple of coffees. Now, here's the thing with coffees. Caffeine doesn't do anything to me at all. I did it because I am really enjoying the taste of oat milk at the minute, and for no other reason other than that. And I had my second coffee and I suddenly got the shakes, and I was like, oh, that's so weird. I never get the shakes. What the fuck? How is caffeine now taking an effect? I had that whole thing on TikTok where I was saying, oh, caffeine doesn't work on me. I think the caffeine rush concept is just a myth you guys are peddling to prank me. And everyone commented, oh, are we going to tell her? Are we going to tell her that she's got ADHD? So I was like, oh, what the fuck? It's just never done a thing to me. And all of a sudden I've got the shakes. In retrospect, what I think was happening was a panic attack. And I came into the room and Kieran was trying to do his work. And we were like, okay, let's just sit in separate rooms to do our work so we're not disrupting each other. And I kept coming in every 5 minutes with another crisis. So I came in this time and I was like, I can't feel the ends of my fingers. I don't feel like I'm attached to my body. I feel like my body's shrunk inside my body, and I'm doing this and I can't feel my fingers. I'm not on the outside of my body. My soul isn't meeting up to the edge of my skin, the barrier where skin and air are. And he was like, oh, is it the coffee? And I went, it must be the coffee. It must be the coffee. I was having a panic attack and I just didn't clock it. So I did many big cries on Friday, and also we were looking at my step count because being in Blackpool, we've walked a lot the last 4 days. And so I was looking at my step count, and then we went, what the fuck are we doing on Friday? There's 67 steps. Was I just sat entirely still? No, it's because I was having a breakdown and I had to lock my phone in the bedroom so I didn't go and mess with it. So that's what that was. Just, being completely stationary, and feeling really shit. And then, my period started on, Monday? And we went, oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense now. It makes a lot more sense, even though it's only day 23, because there's no rhyme or reason to my period schedule. Sometimes I'll have none. Sometimes I'll have one that's a week early. Sometimes I'll have 3 in a month. And my doctor's still hasn't figured out why that was that I had 3 in a month. And yes, I did go to the doctor, before anyone asks. I did go to the doctor. We don't know what that was. They then got sidetracked on a different issue, and it just sort of curtailed into whatever. So we never did find out the root cause, but it's probably fine. When has women's reproductive health ever been anything serious? So yeah, I've cried a lot the last few days. I cried a lot yesterday when I was packing, because I just didn't feel right, and I hate packing my bag anyway. Just felt sad, and Kieran was like, what's wrong, what is it, and the only thing I could think to say was like, I want to build a nest, which makes no sense. So that's where we're at emotionally. And the whole time I've been talking, you have no idea the suction force I've been doing on the back of my eyes to try and keep the tears inside my face. It could happen at any point. Now, from that, let's move on to a topic that also could make me cry, which is the topic of St Kilda. Do you guys know about St Kilda? Get to know about St Kilda. It's an island that is like 100 miles west of the Hebrides, and it's really small. It's one village big. Rather, it's an archipelago. The big one's called Herta. That's where the village is. And there's not much else there. No trees grow there. And for 2,000 years, it was inhabited by these people who essentially lived in an entirely socialist community where they would look after the weakest of the group. They didn't really have a currency except for feathers. So because there was no wood, they couldn't like make fishing rods or anything like that. So all the sustenance that they got was from seabirds, of which there are absolutely millions. So they would scale down the sides of these cliffs and grab seabirds and eggs, and there were thousands. You could like farm thousands in a week. And they also had some sheep and cows for milk and whatnot on the island, including a type of sheep that is sort of not undeveloped. What do I mean? Unevolutioned. Like, it hasn't really been affected by evolution in the way that sheep in other places have been. So it's sort of a prehistoric prehistoric what's the word? Genre? No, you know what I mean, of sheep. So it's a really interesting island, and they were, it was colonized by the Vikings thousands of years ago. They got evidence of it being inhabited in the Bronze Age. It's been inhabited for ages, but as of about 1930, it hasn't been. There's just been a sort of army base on there, and it's now owned by the National Trust, and you can go and you can camp there and things like that. So it's quite a bizarre place with all the, just the ruins of this village. And Kieran watched this YouTube video that is like, bless the guy that tried to make it, because he's clearly put in a ton of research, but there's so little video footage of the island itself, because obviously it's been uninhabited for so long, that he was mostly just zooming in and out on Google Earth. Like, the visuals are really shit, but it's such an interesting story of people starting to come and visit more and more. They're basically, they get one visitor every, I don't know, decade or whatever for ages. And then in the 19th century, with advances in transport mechanics, people came to visit more quickly because it's more accessible within the space of hours rather than, I don't know, days or whatever. So people were visiting it more, and it really corrupted the system. And then they had missionaries coming there, and there was this really tyrannical priest that forced everyone to go to these massive church services and not work certain days. So their livelihood, their livestock, and their fishing effort, not their fishing, their birding efforts were completely derailed. It just completely ruined the way of life that these people had. And obviously the literary romantics absolutely were obsessed with the idea of this Edenic prelapsarian community. To everyone like me saying prelapsarian, that was one of my favorite words to use in my essays. It just means Edenic, before the fall. The writers really loved the idea of this untouched civilization. This is how civilization should be, without all the vices of the modern world. Anyway, people started to visit more and more, and it ruined the ecosystem that had been built there, the social ecosystem rather than the ecosystem, I mean, to the point where it wasn't lucrative to live there anymore. They couldn't sustain themselves financially anymore, and so loads of the men were leaving to go and work on the mainland, and there just weren't enough people there to sustain the livelihoods and to go out and get birds. And it got to the point where there was a mass starvation happening, and also there was a whole thing about midwives. I think it was that for a while midwives weren't allowed to be on there, but then there was one midwife there, and all the babies kept dying and they couldn't work out why. And we did watch the documentary. I can't remember what it was. There was something in the soil. Did they all have typhus? oh, there was something really sad. All the babies kept dying. You know, they were completely dying out, and they had to send this emergency letter out to the Scottish government saying, please, can you come and get us? We're starving. We can't support ourselves anymore. We just need to get off the island. It's going to kill us to stay here. And so there's one day they all just got on the boat at 7 a.m. and it was a really calm sea. And they left an open Bible and a pile of oats in each house. There was a reason. I can't remember what the reason was. And they locked the doors and they just got on the boat and they sailed away. And that was the end of it. Oh, the idea of St. Kilda makes me really sad. Oh, the tears might start now at the thought of everyone leaving the island forever. But just what a story. Amazing that there's not more folk music about it. I might try and write a song later if I feel particularly inspired. I mean, it's not really my story to tell, but I like to sit with my ukulele and try and make words rhyme. So maybe that'll be an activity for this afternoon. Back to the hen do. We went to see a cabaret, which I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to be seeing boobies. We're going to be seeing some tibbies at the show. And we did. But what I wasn't expecting was for it not to be about the reveal. I think I got it confused with burlesque. So I thought it was going to be about the act of shedding the clothes and a seductive nature. Really what it was just every so often the dancers would come on and they just weren't wearing a top. And it felt so incidental that you immediately became numb to the sight of boobies. So that was quite shocking to me how quickly I acclimatized that. Not dissimilar to the time that we went to a sauna complex in Germany and just everyone was naked. That immediately I was like, oh, well, we're all just naked, that's fine. Don't know what I'd do if I was on my period there. That's a different issue. What was weird about the sauna complex in Germany was the fact there were children there. That to me is a bit suspect. So yeah, there was movies that night and there were hen do's aplenty at the cabaret. What was it? Paradis Latin. Also, the MC of that was a drag queen who had the single hardest job I can imagine having as a performer, which is trying to do comedy in 2 languages. So she would do a line of English and then do a line of French. How do you even do the punchline at that point? Your rhythm's completely thrown off if you're trying to do a punchline in French, but then immediately afterwards do it in English so that everyone can laugh at the same time. Such a difficult task. So props to that drag queen. That you are a stronger person than me. On the second day, we went to the Perfume Museum, which is run by the company Fragonard, which is a French perfume company that only sells in France. So they were really marketing us. They're going, this is your one opportunity to buy some perfume. You will not be able to buy it when you are abroad. You can only buy the perfume when you are here. You have to buy the perfume now. That was very Ewan McGregor in Beauty and the Beast there, bordering on Mexican at some points, that accent. But the Perfume Museum, it was a very beautiful building, and I really liked the idea of doing our workshop. When they were talking about the perfume workshop, I don't know whether I thought we'd have more agency over what we put in, but I mean, they sort of controlled what we were doing very well in that they showed us the perfume that's currently their perfume of the year. The company's turning 100 this year, and to celebrate the fragrance, which I actually do have in my handbag, is Plein Air de Grasse. And Grasse is an area in the south of France where so many of the herbs and flowers and fruits which are used in perfume for various different perfumes like Dior and Chanel, whatever else, are grown. And I realized I did actually know that because I read the book Perfume by Patrick Suskind. Either way, it's one of my favorite books of the year, and I really want to recommend it to people because I think it's so good. It was an immediate 5 stars for me. Like, it's in my like top 5 books I've ever read, but it's such a weird book that I'm like, oh, people are going to look at me really weirdly if I actually do recommend it. Like, if I recommend it to people. Because the end in particular is so gross. There's lots of grossness throughout, but then it's just beyond gross. It's the grossest thing you can imagine. And I'm like, oh, everyone's going to think I'm like the Marquis de Sade if I try recommending this to people. But it did give me a good insight into the history of perfume, which is very interesting. And they did go through it at the Perfume Museum. And bless him, Augustin, who was our little tour guide, was trying so hard to wrangle all these women. Because there was us, and then there was another hen party who were Mancunian, and they, light and love to them, they were not particularly interested in the history of perfume, so he was trying really hard, and he was going like, okay, so we can come into this room now, girls, ladies, it was the girls, like he was a schoolmaster, really made me laugh. He's like, girls, we can look at this now. So bless Augustin for trying his best. That was a tall order for him, and he was so sweet as well. He was like, oh, I love you, English girls, you are so fashionable. And he did this thing I really like as well when people are learning to speak English. and they've clearly read a word but haven't heard it pronounced, and you're like, oh, you're really expanding your vocab. I really appreciate that. I love hearing people mispronounce words in real life that they've clearly encountered through reading. I think that's lovely. So he was like a musque instead of a mosque, and I was like, this man's reading, he's really trying hard at English, and I fucking love that, and I think we should really promote that. So he was a sweet man, and then we all got a little perfume afterwards, and we all smell like Fragonard, and my scent is Belle Chérie. I wish I could tell you what the notes are, but I don't remember. I think I have some kind of nose obstacle, nose, just something wrong with my nose. I'm not very good at smelling. He was going, okay, well, what can you smell in the base notes of this? Oh, that was what I was meaning to say about the Plein Air de Grasse, is that was their perfume of the year. So they separated it into like the top notes, heart notes, base notes, and then we could all sort of mix and match what proportions of one or the other we wanted, depending on what we wanted the accent scents to be. So we all came away with essentially the same perfume, but slightly different in terms of the quantities. And so, train of thought gone. Choo choo. Hang on. Just wait for it to pull up to the station. Anyway, we all got our Fragonard perfumes. That was it, Belle Chérie. He explained that there's like the different scent families, I want to say. So there's, your citruses, your florals. There's like 5, and I can only remember 2. That shows how unaccustomed I am to the art of smelling, but we all had our lovely perfumes, so that was fabulous. The other thing I've noted from the Hindu is a conversation that Rue and I had, and listen, I'd love some input from you guys as to whether or not you agree with this. We had a conversation on the tram back from Edinburgh Airport to Princess Street about the fact that Greg Davis is sexy. And the reason I've noted this down is because Kieran thinks that I'm talking shit whenever I say this. He thinks I'm just doing it for a bit. Greg Davis is so hot. Guys, come on. No, don't turn it off. Don't turn it off. Leave the podcast on. He's sexy. Guys. Greg Davis is hot, and I'm sick of pretending he's not. Something about it. It's short. It's the commanding teacheriness of him. But I think he's also, he's so charming. He's got a lovely smile. He's got such a nice smile. Meeting him in real life, I was like, whoa. Where you gonna... He's hot. So if anyone else finds Greg Davis hot, please chime in and agree with me to make a point to Kieran. Because he's convinced there's like a mass delusion thing going on where all us like Gen Z women are watching Taskmaster, and we all just really love being a teacher's pet. And therefore we've melded that with the idea of fancying Greg Davis. But I think it's completely legitimate, and I am sick of pretending otherwise. Now, I went to a Zumba class this week. It was a different Zumba instructor. I did make friends. I made a friend. Granted, again, not my age bracket, but that's by the by. Her name was Linda, and she was really excited. So I rocked up, and I was really worried about being late. But don't worry, the instructor was significantly later than I was, and she rocked up with like her cap and sunglasses on, which I thought was pretty cunt. She then did a Zumba class that was so high on choreography, which was great for my brain. I don't feel like I necessarily got as much out of it on a physical sense, because the other one, although the choreography is simpler, so much of it's just walking on the spot, and after a while that really gets your calves burning, especially as like step tap step tap step tap step tap, just that for 4 minutes. It really does get your muscles actually going, and you're moving enough that your heart rate does actually increase. This one was less of that, but it was like doing one move for 1 bar, another for 2nd bar, another for 3rd bar, another for 4th bar, and then you get to the point where you're like, we've done 8 bars and it's been a different move every time. I'm having to really think. You can't predict what's coming next, and you're having to adapt quickly to what she's doing in front of you. She also was facing the mirror rather than facing us, which I was like, I prefer when we're looking at each other, because then you can hype us up more. I prefer being hyped up more. They did play Golden, but it wasn't as jumpy. I love to jump. I missed it this week, so I hope Linda doesn't take that personally. I also went to a spin class, and this was a guy who has been teaching spin for donkeys by the sounds of it. Who's saying, I remember my first spin class in the days of yore, and all the things I learnt then, and all these tips and tricks. He had a microphone on, which was good because my hearing's so shit. I really struggled in the first class with the like gung-ho Scottish lady to actually understand what she was saying, just because of how loud the music was. You got the sound of the machines, So it's good that he had his mic on, but the quality of the mic was so shit that I was like, he might as well not have it on. And he played a lot of dance music. My high point of the spin class was when Sandstorm came on, which is a song that reminds me of very specifically when I went to a wine tasting with my family, and my brother didn't drink wine at the time. I feel like he does now, or he certainly drinks Prosecco. I have no idea if Max likes wine or not now. He certainly didn't at the time, and Mum doesn't drink wine either, so what was the point in 4 of us going to a wine tasting? Either way, Dad and I got really drunk, and when my dad is drunk, he likes to do this dance routine that's just, is all in the wrist, and it's like he's washing a very small car, just sort of waving slightly loose wrist. It's a real sight to behold, and so that was a nice flashback to have while cycling to Sandstorm. It was a more difficult one because there just wasn't as much reprieve, as after every song he went, okay, and this one's going to be a real challenge for you now, you got to really challenge yourself. And I was like, you said that last one, I've put it all out there, everything's on the floor right now. So my legs really hurt, and it's like, you know, let's put the resistance up a little bit. My resistance is so high, it's so high, and my legs really hurt. So I was being a big old baby in that class. I kept turning my resistance down when I felt like he wasn't looking. I've not booked anything in this week yet, and these places get snapped up so quickly. But I don't know. To be honest, with how emotional my period is making me right now, I don't know how I'm going to fare at a fitness class. I might cry at one. Stay tuned to find out if I cry at a fitness class. These notes are so stupid. I've written being confidently wrong on ScotRail, which was just a little horrible moment that I had when I was coming back from the Irish class, and the guy was asking me if a train went to a certain place, and I didn't quite catch what he said, so he was showing me his phone. I went, oh, Dalry. Yeah, I think it does go to Dalry. And then seconds later, the ScotRail announcer was like, this train is headed for Dalry. And I went, oh, fuck. I said it so loudly, everyone in this carriage has heard me. And I think that was the first instance in the last week of me having very low resilience at the minute, which resilience was my big thing that I worked on in therapy. I mean, there were plenty of big things I worked on in therapy, getting over nervous breakdown being one of them. But I really wanted to improve my resilience because just every setback knocked me off my track. Particularly academically, I really struggled with getting such negative feedback, very little positive, which is not even by dint of me being especially bad. It was because because my tutor's French. And so it was like, I remember my therapist being like, is she trying to be mean to you? I was like, I genuinely just think it's a French thing. I think it's just really English to pander to students as much as we do. So I really wasn't prepared for the feedback to be as unrelentingly negative, and that really hurt my ego. And I can tell that I'm very menstrual at the minute by how unresilient I'm feeling. So I did a TikTok when I was in Blackpool that was like, there was a poster of Sooty and Sweep holding a gun, and I was like, oh, that's so who gave Sooty a gun? That's so funny. And I posted it on TikTok, and all the comments are like, that's his water pistol, he's always had that. Unfortunately, that TikTok's done quite well, so I'm like, oh, I don't really want to delete it, because it's actually got quite a bit of traction with unintentionally rage baiting boomers to comment on this, being like, oh, didn't you know he's always had that? What the hell? He's always had his water pistol. I didn't know. I'm sorry, I was born in 2001. I've never watched Sooty and Sweep. I watch Horrible Histories and Tracy Beaker Returns. I'm young. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. And I got so like wound up at the idea of upsetting people by not knowing that Sooty had a water pistol. So ridiculous. Get an actual grip. What's wrong with me? And then I saw a video of Scott Brown, who is a former Celtic player, who it just really riled up the crowd, and the crowd riled him up. But he really he thrived on people getting angry at him and upset at him and hurling verbal abuse at him from the crowd. And I thought, God, I need him to coach me. I need Scott Brown to coach me how to be a more resilient person. All of a sudden, that wall of resilience that I've built up is crumbled. And I've even tried to do that trying to get 1,000 rejections thing that everyone's talking about on the internet. And it sucks. It sucks. I know that the whole thing's just trying to put a positive spin on putting yourself out there and, putting yourself forward for things that you wouldn't normally do, just on the off chance that maybe something positive happens. But the things I'm applying for are just jobs, just a regular job, and I'm not hearing back, which is so upsetting because every time I'm like, oh, I'd be perfect for this. I'd be so perfect. And my resilience wall is just crumbling. I used to be so much more of a resilient person. I don't want this podcast episode to be really negative. We are going to get to Blackpool, and that's largely going to be more... is it largely going to be more positive? I feel like I was moody for quite a lot of Blackpool, which really sucks for Jordan because we weren't there for his birthday, and I just couldn't match the energy that he was putting out there. Yeah, I want to be more resilient. I'm tired of little things affecting me so greatly that it completely derails my day. Someone on TikTok was like, I made a throwaway joke about the West Midlands, which is... we're Brits, we take the piss out of regions all the time, and someone got really upset at it, and I was like, come on, and it really ruined like a 3-day run where I constantly just thinking about this person that got upset because I made a joke about the West Midlands. Man, I want to be a famous person. How could I possibly be a famous person if I can't deal with one person getting upset because I just said the West Midlands isn't good? I'm from the East Midlands. Of course I'm going to say that. I wasn't even saying it in a West Midlands is bad because it's rubbish way. I was saying it because I'm from the East Midlands. It's a different genre, taking the piss out of the West Midlands. I can feel the cry. It's so funny just trying to continually talk and not cry about someone getting upset because I said something negative about the West Midlands. Anyway, I'm about to say something negative about Blackpool, so let's all fucking gird our loins. Blackpool. What an interesting place that it is. What an interesting place. I think it's so... I think it's so charming to British nature that we are continuing to honour a place that was the height of vacational joy for a century's worth of people. You know, come the Industrial Revolution and the advent of rail transport, it would have been the most joyous thing you can possibly imagine, going to Blackpool, to the beach, to have a lovely time there, have some ice cream, you know, play on the amusements, and go on the roller coaster that's like 140 odd years old. Oh, what a joy. And I think it's so endearing of us as Brits that we've kept Blackpool alive. And I think it's also endearing that it hasn't changed for 140 years. It's kept the exact same, you know, hotel after hotel after hotel just haven't been updated remotely, and they all still cost £20 a night. You know, that the level of inflation since about 2002 at least hasn't changed. It's still cheap as chips to stay there. But my God, do you get your money's worth? It's exactly a £20 a night worth of stay. The hotels, they're not sightly. It did make me think the whole time I was there, I was going, where the fuck do they put the cast of Strictly when they come here? Where are the hotels that the cast of EastEnders that have been roped into Strictly on a year-on-year basis? Where are they staying? Also, the people who do location scouting for the little VTs, you know, behind the scenes, here's what we got up to in training bits of Strictly. Where the fuck are they actually going? There's like 5 locations that you can go to that make it look like a happy place. It did look a little sad. Please don't get upset that I said Blackpool looks a little bit sad. Please. It does look a little bit sad, but you know, I think the team Strictly do a really good job of making it look really fun all the time. Because also, like, the Tower Ballroom, it's opposite a Primark. And you know, it's got the dungeons underneath, which the billboards of them are looking a little faded. So you know, I think they do a really good job of lighting it in as positive a way as you can. That said, I did have fun at the Pleasure Beach. My first time going to the Pleasure Beach. So Kieran's a massive theme park nerd to the point where he knows the manufacturers of all the roller coasters, and boy does he want to tell us. Boy does he want to tell all of us who made each roller coaster, what kind of acceleration it's got, what kind of boost at the start, whether it was controversial, where the other roller coasters made by the same manufacturer are, how long it's been here, what the theme used to be, who used to sponsor it, what color the rails used to be. He knows everything, and he loves to think about it and watch YouTube videos about it and talk about it. And that's, do you know what? That's lovely. It is lovely that I found a person who gets as deeply into their interests as I do. It's nice that we've met our match. I think that's lovely. So he was very excited to go there, and he loves to be jostled. I think part of it is because he's such a tall guy that, you know, he just is quite rooted. So he doesn't get jostled a lot, whereas I get blown over by a breath of air. I'm constantly tripping over stuff. I also, I wear tall shoes, so I bring it upon myself. But he loves to be jostled. I don't. I love to be grounded, stable. Stationary is great for me. Love to be stationary. Love to sit down. Lying down, even better. So we're coming at a roller coaster theme park from different angles, I would say. And I'm very aware of what my body can achieve over the course of a day. I used to only go to a theme park like once every 10 years. We go to Alton Towers once every 10 years. I went to Alton Towers and Twin Lakes in the space of 1 year when I was chaperoning as an assistant teacher, and I was like, that's enough for me. That's enough. That's good. I feel satiated. I've met my quota of going on roller coasters for a year. That's completely fine. So Kieran loves roller coasters. So we've been going more than has been my average for the majority of my life. He went to Luna Park when we were in Sydney. I had a lovely time sitting in the shade, reading my book, which was Perfume at the time, by the way, which I absolutely raced through, finished that in no time at all. And I was under the little spray thing because it was such a hot day. It was like 43 degrees. It was crazy. And they were spraying water mist. Oh, it felt so good. It felt so good. My book was soaked. The issue being, because it was so hot, loads of the rides were closed because the seats were black and they were absorbing too much heat, and it just wasn't safe to sit on. So Kieran couldn't go on some of the rides he wanted to go on. And then when we went to Melbourne, they have another Luna Park there, which similar to Blackpool's, looking a little bit tired, dare I say, just a little. And we went on this one roller coaster that's like, I think it's the oldest in the world. He was really excited about it because it's wooden, and by God, did it shake. It shook a tail feather when we were on it. And I didn't like that. I don't like the ricketiness. I don't like being jostled. He kept calling it character, which it just sounds like an estate agent to me. Like, oh, this beautiful crumbling wall, doesn't it give it some character? Oh, the fact the fireplace is falling apart and soot's coming into the room. Oh, it's all very characterful. Very characterful. So I'm not of that school of thought necessarily. We went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. First one we went on was in Nickelodeon Land. It was quite forgettable. I don't really remember much about it. Then we went on Revolution, and I was just following the boys. So it was me and Kieran and Jordan, whose birthday it was. Happy birthday, Jordan. He's now 30 years old. And his friend Dingo, who, by the way, so Dingo has this habit of liking really like horrible stuff on Instagram. Like if it's someone like throwing up, or I don't know, getting into quite a bad cycling crash, or just like when there's, oh, I don't know, do you remember when there was that TikTok of someone trying to flush Orbeez and then the toilet water like coming out with all the Orbeez in it? I feel like that's the kind of thing he would have liked. So I was prepared for Dingo to be an absolute nutcase. Dingo's great. Love Dingo. He was an absolute asset to the team. What a joy it was to have him there and share hair bubbles with him. So the four of us were going up. I, as usual, wasn't paying attention to where I was going. I was just following the boys up the staircase, a lot of stairs, to get to the top of this ride. Then I clocked that it's called Revolution, and I went, oh, fuck. Oh, no. Oh dear. Because I don't like to be spun. I don't like to be upside down. We're not meant to be upside down as people. We're meant to be the right way up as often as is possible. So the fear of God came into me. We sat down on the seats. I wasn't feeling good. The whole ride was just, you go forward, you complete a 360-degree revolution, you come to a stop. You say to yourself, oh, fuck. And then you shoot backwards. You complete the revolution in reverse. It's over. You throw up. And as we were starting, we're getting buckled in and stuff. And we sat there for a while. Okay, been a little while. What's going on? And Kieran was like, oh, there's nothing. No reason. And John went, there's someone throwing up over there. Oh, God, there's vomit. Everyone's puking everywhere. He's churning over there. And this guy, bless him, had gotten off the roller coaster and had his hand over his mouth, and spew had come out from between the fingers, just projectile everywhere. And the poor lads who were running the roller coaster had to clean it up, and that's why it took so long. So at that point, it was hands over my eyes, blinker fashion. Don't look, because I'll be sick. I've got a real like, what do they call it when you're pregnant and then your partner starts getting the same symptoms? Is it called an empathetic No, what's it called? Do you know what I mean? Let's call it, for the time being, I know it's not called it, let's call it an empathetic pregnancy. That for me, with emesis, I'm gonna throw up. I'm so emetophobic. I hate vomit. It's not for me. I can't do it. Kieran finds it genuinely hysterical. When he sees videos of people throwing up, he loves it. I can't be in the room. The sound of it, I can't do it. And I wish I was a girl's girl who could hold other girls' hair when they're throwing up. I can't do it. I can't be in the room. Otherwise, I will be joining you. I just can't do it. So that started off strong. But that's before the roller coaster started. And then they tipped me all the way forward. I don't feel good. My lungs hit the base of my chin. All my organs fly up, smack me in the face like that. That's not for me. We get to the end, and it dawns on me. It dawns on me that we're going to go backwards. The panic sets in. I look over at Kieran. He is laughing hysterically. The eyes start to well up. I look back at John. I go, Jordan. And then I start, the crying starts to happen very quietly. I go, and then flung back by the seat of our pants, rotating, and we're back. It was horrible. I hated it. And that was the second thing we did of the day. Luckily, the next thing we did was the Wallace and Gromit ride, and I had a lot more fun. What were the other ones we did? Icon was okay because that was quite smooth, but the second time we did it, I didn't feel very well. It was better when we were at the back than being at the front. For some reason, being at the front just wasn't good for me. We went on one that was themed around bobsleds and the Winter Olympics, which is great because Kieran is obsessed with the Winter Olympics right now. That man won't shut up about skiing. It's skiing and roller coasters, and now also mountain biking. That is just ad infinitum. So I went on this thing, it's very lovely alpine themed. And we go, oh, this is quite charming. This will surely be quite an easy one. We get into our little bobsled. It's 2-man. So Kieran's sitting here. I'm sort of lie sitting twixt leg. The bar comes down over us. And the guy's like, no, it's not down enough. Shoves it, puncturing me in the womb. Ow, hurts. We then set off. And as is the case with all roller coasters, they do it so tight and it's never quite tight enough. Man, I was jostling against that thing. Oh, that really hurt. That hurt so bad. And the photo of that is especially heinous and unforgiving. We went on the horsey themed one, which was quite fun. It was a nice little roundabout course to go on. Again, the issue being the seat that I was sat on, because it was like a spooning one again. So Kieran sat behind me and then there's a little seat. It was jabbing me in the kidney so hard. Ow, didn't like that. And then the braking was so sudden, and again the bar embedded itself into my internal reproductive system. So I'm feeling a lot of pain in this. There's some joy to it, mostly in the Wallace and Gromit side of things, particularly when we come across a guy dressed as Gromit, the Meet the Gromit, like, what do you describe that as? A mascot. His full mascot costume. And I'm not sure that the behavior of the guy in the Gromit mascot costume would be necessarily condoned by Aardman Animations. He was a tight hugger, and he did a big old bit about pulling me to one side and kissing my hand and spinning me around and then going, no, to Kieran, pushing him away, no, and then grabbing my hand and going, where's the ring? Where's the ring? Which Kieran was like, oh, she's not letting me because she keeps saying she's too young because she's fresh out of school. She's not fresh out of school. She's 24. That old chestnut. But the photos are really sweet. For the people who are watching this rather than listening to it, about to present you with the photos. There's me with Gromit having a big old cuddle. That guy loved me. Kieran also said when Gromit eventually did cuddle him, he could hear the guy inside the suit laughing, which I think is really sweet. There's the three of us. Lovely stuff. And then he kept waving to me when I was walking around the park, so that was nice. My feet started to get very tired throughout the day, and boy did everyone else hear about it. I hate having hurty feet. I don't like walking too much. I like sitting down frequently, but otherwise that was a lovely day. We had a really early night. Everyone was so wiped. It's amazing how wiped out you can get by going to a theme park. So the next day we got the tram into Blackpool Town Centre and just had a bit of a mooch around. We went to, this I'll say for Blackpool, we went to a bunch of charity shops and there's some good stuff in there. There was one bum note for me, which was when I got what I thought was a lovely Next blouse with a sheared bodice and floaty sleeves, and I thought that's lovely, fantastic, and a little floaty bit at the bottom. I put it on and I realised it's a romper. Oh, boo, I didn't want a romper. Got baggy crotch. Didn't want a baggy crotch. I wanted a lovely blouse, so now I'm gonna have to figure out how to chop that because it's just a big square crotch. No one wants that. That's why it was £2, I figured out. I also got the dress that I'm currently wearing, which perfectly matches my grandma's blazer, so that's lovely. And these shoes. which perfectly match it. So dress for the job you want. The job I want is Samantha Jones. That's why I'm dressed like her. Unfortunately, the shoes are slightly big for me. So I took, wait for this, the ribbons that are in the armpit of the dress and made a little impromptu ankle strap just to keep them on slightly more. It's semi-worked. They are still slopping quite badly. But for the time being, that's not so bad. I've just noticed one thing on my notes that I forgot about, which just says Anastacia-themed, which sounds like a great drag name, by the way, which was just when I was in the airport with Rue. I'll go back to Blackpool in a second. When I was in the airport with Rue, we both got into a real echolalia thing of singing part of Left Outside Alone by Anastacia, and we could not drop it for ages. And it keeps coming back, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm stuck in this now. I'm going, I wonder if you know how it really feels to be left outside alone when it's good out here. Left outside alone. Never left outside alone. Never left outside alone when it's good out here. Moving on. So, yes, we were mooching around. I got some great bargains at the various charity shops, and then we decided to go to an escape room. I love escape rooms, and I feel like I was really gunning for it, and I've been gunning for going to an escape room for a while. We went to one on my birthday, my 24th birthday, and it was so much fun. And Kira and I were really good at it, and the person that was running it was like, you guys should come back and do the harder one. I think you can do it, just you two. Normally, we recommend having 4 people. I think you two could do it together. Now, here's what I love about escape rooms. I am a lateral thinking girl, first and foremost, which is why I think I'd be great on Taskmaster. Please get me on Taskmaster. I want to be famous enough to go on Taskmaster. So I love to laterally think. That's what I was complimented on during my work experience week at Private Eye, and I still quote that on my CV to this day. This one, I would say it was good fun. I would just say it wasn't as thinky as I wanted it to be. It was very findy, and I'm not a finder. I'm so bad at finding. I had a big cry. Oh, that was a surprise. I had a big cry a couple of weeks ago because I couldn't find my house keys, and I was getting into such a flap. I was like, fuck, I'm supposed to go to the party. I'm supposed to be leaving now. This is the last train I can get in order to not be late. I can't find my fucking keys. And John was like, it's fine, I'll lock you out. I'm going to be here when you get back, so I'll get it for you, voice of reason. And then Kieran came back and I was like, I just know you're going to find it. You're going to find it in 10 seconds. You're going to find those keys in 10 seconds. And by God, did he. He just looked at the floor and he went, that's where the coat she was wearing yesterday has fallen. Lift up the coat. There it is. There's the keys. I'm not a finder. I'm rubbish at finding stuff. And it was very findy. The couple of puzzles that were there, one of them I was getting really annoyed at because it was one of those where like the words of numbers are hidden within a riddle. And so that's the code for a padlock is the numbers that are like TO instead of TWO and FOR instead of FOUR. It's that classic thing, which annoyed me because I was like, what kind of person do you need to be for that to occur to you that that's what's going on here? Otherwise, I contributed very little, and I was really conscious that because I'd been gunning for it so much, I wanted everyone to have a really good time. So the whole time I kept going, are we all having fun? Is everyone having fun? Are you having fun? Oh God, good. I'm so glad. So that was all fun and games, and we did it with 30 seconds to go. So go us. My contribution was minimal, but we did it. So that's what's important. I also had 1 pint before going in there because we went to an Irish bar just so the boys could go to the loo because my God, do boys wee a lot. Jesus Christ. Boys wee all the time. Maybe I know I'm not drinking very much. I've instantly, the second I start talking about weeing, I'm like, I actually need to go. I need a wee now. But those boys be pissing all the time. So we're constantly having to find another loo. So we went to the Irish bar and we're like, well, fuck it, we're here, let's have a pint. So we had a pint, and then obviously that made me need a wee with 45 minutes. Like, we're 45 minutes into the escape room, and I'm like, legs are crossed. I'm starting to do the knee jangle. Ooh, need to go now. Let's up the pace. Can we get out of the escape room now? Quickly, let's try and escape from the escape room. And then I had another pint afterwards. And at that point, the boys wanted to go to the arcade. Now, we've been to the arcade a bunch of times already over the course of the couple of days we've been there. And I had, like, I like the penny drop ones. There's plenty that I don't really enjoy, and I'll enjoy it for a time and then be like, okay, next thing, let's go. So I brought my book, and first day I sat in the corner of the arcade and read my book instead. But this time I was like, you know what, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather mentally. So I'm gonna do my classic thing that I do when I feel a bit sad, which is go and look at Primark. There's Primark in in Blackpool was quite shit. It was quite small. The one in Glasgow is fucking massive, and you can always find something that you want that is cheap and will bring you 45 minutes worth of joy. So I went to walk around Primark, and I was like, I'm so drunk. I've had 2 pints over the course of 3 hours, and I'm completely pissed. My alcohol tolerance is completely fucked at the minute because I'm drinking really very little. So I was completely pissed, and I was texting Kieran going, I'm drunk. I don't know, I don't know where I am. I'm drunk. I sat in the changing room, tried on this dress that I did eventually buy, but I was sat there going, what do I think of this? Do I like this? Think. Have an opinion. What do I think? Mom, what do I think about this dress? What do I think? So I did buy it, but I think had I not been drunk, maybe I wouldn't have done it because I was just forcing myself to have an opinion. And then I rejoined the boys. We played some arcade games, and in the end, between the 4 of us, across all 3 piers over the course of 2 days, we accumulated enough tickets for the boys to be able to get an RV radio control car. So that was a great source of joy for them. Then on the final day, reverse. We went to a fish and chip shop on that evening, Mother Hubbard's, and I learned something that I didn't necessarily want to have to learn. I didn't want anything fried. I was a little bit fried out. We'd had, chips and burgers and whatever else over the last couple of days. And, we had our fry up in the morning. I was like, I just don't want to have a fried shit right now. Like, I don't want anything with batter on it. I'm turning into a boomer right now. I just didn't want to have anything fried. I was a little bit over that particular flavor palette. And we got to the fish and chip shop, and they were like, scallops on the menu. Fuck yeah, I'll have some scallops. That sounds nice. Fresh fishy fish with no batter on. Great stuff. Do you guys know what a scallop is in the north of England? Do you guys know this? A scallop is a chunk of potato that's covered in batter. I was like, wow, it's suspiciously cheap fresh fish here for like, £2 to get a portion of scallops. Hell yeah, you don't get that in fancy restaurants. It was a hunk of potato covered in batter, and I was like, this is such a low point. I can't cry in Mother Hubbard's fish and chip shop. I just need to hold it together. But the last thing I wanted right now, the last thing I wanted when I'm feeling extremely hormonally emotional, is to have a chunk of fried potato. I don't want it right now. So I went quite non-verbal at the fish and chip shop. Cut to next day, we go to spend some time in the arcades. The boys get their little thing, and they very graciously were like, we need to get a girly thing for Charlotte because otherwise she's not part of this. The boys with their RV car. So I got a wicked keyring, which is great. We then went to Blackpool Zoo, and I was like, oh, I feel really tired. I fell asleep in the car in the 20 minutes it took us to get from the hotel to the zoo, and I was like, I might just sleep through this. I don't know whether I want to actually come into the zoo right now. I'm glad I did because the walking, I think, did me good. We had a good old mooch about. I cried, obviously, when I saw a baby monkey hugging its mum, and then we all had a good old get. By the way, like 1 in 3 of the animals in Blackpool Zoo is a monkey. So many monkeys. I love monkeys there. One of the monkeys had diarrhea, and it was so close to us. We were watching it, and then I did a wee as well. Sorry, this is such a gross episode. But we watched that, and that did cause us to laugh a lot. Starting to get wee legs. Need a wee soon. What other creatures did we see? We saw elephants. That was good. We saw giraffes. The sea lions were exceptional. My goodness. They were called Ruby, Xana, and Lolita. Call back to last week's episode. They were so talented. So that was all fun and games. And then we stopped at T-Bay on the way home. And I had a lovely T-Bay dinner of a pie and some slaw. This is such boring content to listen to, by the way. What else have I written down? Have I written anything interesting? Fainting spell. When did I have a fainting spell? Oh my God, I had a fainting spell in Paris. I forgot about that. When we went out, we went out to one of those bars, which I've always wanted to go to, where there's no menu and you just describe what you like and they make it for you. And I was like, oh, this is actually quite hard. It's hard to describe what you actually like. But I've been drinking, I had a woo-woo at SWG3, as I described in the last episode, and I'd been having cosmopolitans at the bars we've been to in Paris, and I was like, I'm really enjoying cranberry flavour right now. I'm liking the sort of fruity punch adjacent cocktails. So when it came to my turn, I was like, oh, I've been enjoying a woo-woo recently, been enjoying a little cosmopolitan. And he was like, oh, so you want fruit juice? And at that point I panicked because I think I thought that he meant, do I just want non-alcoholic fruit juice? And I was like, oh, well, whatever you think. And then I saw him pouring Porto and I was like, oh, fuck, that doesn't feel very, very like cosmopolitan. And he produced a drink that was really tasty and it had vegan froth on top. Lovely touch. He done a little squiggly design in it, very pretty, and it had gin and lemon juice. It tasted really good. But at that point, my body started to shut down. Now, I'm a hereditary fainter. We don't really know what the root cause is other than it just being hereditary. So my mum really struggles drinking wine. Well, it was a dangerous game. The same was true for my grandma. I don't know wine though, because that woman loved her Liebfrau milk at the weekend. Yeah, she was prone to a little pass out every now and again. For me, it can be any number of things. Sometimes it'll happen completely sober, sometimes not. So there have been instances, for instance, when I was on the post GCSE trip to Sicily, that one I think was sunstroke, but I had also had a Prosecco, a G&T, and a glass of wine with dinner. They said they knew something was wrong when they asked if I wanted chips, and I said no. And then next thing you know, I'm under the table, slid off the chair, and they had to call the tiny Sicilian ambulance. And for years, I never wore that outfit again that I was wearing when that happened because I thought it was cursed. But now it's one of my favorite outfits. Anyway, there was also an instance where I nearly went down when I was doing a sort of collaboration thing where you would, be in collaboration with a restaurant, for instance, or with a theatre, and you go along and then write your very positive review. And so I was given this £175 restaurant tab to go to Victor's in Oxford, and it was that day, so I was trying to find someone to go with me, and I asked Joe, and it was a really nice thing. So Joe played Salieri when we did Amadeus. Going back to that, happiest time of my life, and that was when our friendship was really solidified. I feel like we'd not really gotten particularly close before that, and then we had dinner together and we're like besties now. And we sat down, we had our first cocktail, we ordered practically everything on the menu because we were making the most of that voucher, and they were treating us like absolute rock stars because they knew that we were there to write a review. And I said to him at the beginning, just to let you know, I am prone to fainting when I have rich food, when I'm drinking alcohol, when it's low lighting, and when it's warm, all of which is true right now. All of those things independently, but together, whoa. Rich food in particular, which is so annoying that I'm like, I can't have fancy food because I might pass out. What kind of absolute peasant genes have I got where I'm like, sorry, I can't have the fancy stuff, otherwise I might be a bit poorly, sorry. Also wearing Spanx and drinking, that can also do it for me. So I said that to Joe and he said, uh-oh, me too. So our friendship was forged in the fires of possibly fainting, which is lovely. But this time I was like, oh, damn, this cocktail tastes so good, but I can tell if I get to the bottom of this cocktail, I think I'm going to become unconscious. And this is my second drink of the evening. So pathetic for my second drink of the evening to be the thing that completely knocks me out. But I think that's true. So I went to the loo, did my deep breaths. It wasn't big enough for me to lie down. This is so gross, I'm sorry. But often the best thing for me to do is lie down on the floor and put my feet on the bowl just to get the blood going back to my head. And it because it's like central Paris, there wasn't enough room for me to actually lie on the floor there. So I was like, don't really know what to do. It was pink neon lighting in this bar, really intense. So I was going, oh, I'm about to really disrupt this lovely evening with the girls by having a medical emergency. And so Ria, who's the maid of honor, came outside with me and we were just doing deep breaths, and I was starting to get upset. I was like, oh fuck, we're just having such a nice time and I really don't want to ruin it by getting ill, for fuck's sake. So we went out for a little bit and I was like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit better. And then we went back inside, continued to have a little tiny sips, and we were talking, and then she'd finished her sentence and I went, I'm really sorry, I think I need to go. I feel really, really not good right now, I'm so sorry. And so we had to call a taxi and go home. I would love to find out what my fucking problem is. And I feel like it's probably lack of iron, which is also probably the reason why I feel tired all the time. Sick of feeling tired. So let's find out if I do anything to improve the iron in my system, whether I get the iron fish that I'm always talking about. You guys know about the iron fish, where you boil water with the iron fish in it and it disperses iron into the water, and then you consume that water, and that's like 400% of the iron you need to consume in a day, which apparently they give to pregnant women. So maybe I need to start treating myself as a pregnant woman. Also, last week when I was like, let's find out if I do anything to pursue an ADHD diagnosis, I did some Googling, and I found out that the first step on this pathway that I did last year, and then as I said, didn't get anywhere because I wrote down the wrong appointment time in my diary and just completely missed it. The first step is to have a conversation with your GP. I have no recollection of talking to my GP about that. I don't remember doing it at all. Did I just not do it, or have I completely blacked out that part of my year? Very confused about that. So the step 1 was the Googling. Let's see if I reach step 2, which is organising a damned appointment to have a chat with someone. That's all I can think to talk about for the time being. Oh, whoa, I forgot to do my things. Okay, I forgot to do my dog fire hydrant of the week. Oh, okay, this is an all right one. When we were on the plane landing in Paris, they applauded. I've never been on a plane where they applauded. I thought that was just a thing that people did in America. I didn't think they did it here. So that was exciting. That's my dog fire hydrant of the week, which, just to remind everyone, is a classic scenario that is not necessarily super common to see, but you're like, oh, that's so classic. That's like in the movies. Okay, time for vocab of the week. Oh, okay, here we go. Plumbaceous. Plumbaceous, resembling lead, particularly in having a dull bluish grey colour. Let's all try and use the word plumbaceous this week. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And thank you so much to everyone who's been super supportive of this. I'm aware I don't really have a USP for this podcast. This is mostly a project for me to get to grips with the art of producing a podcast on a regular basis and doing all the editing, doing the marketing for it. And I'm sorry to everyone who's getting really sick of seeing my face pop up every time they open their feed with a little reel snippet. But thank you to everyone that's reached out and told me they've listened to it and have enjoyed it, or have feedback for it, or have posted about it, commented, liked, shared, whatever. It's super helpful to aid me in getting to where I want to be in life. So thank you so much for that. And please continue to keep listening. And please recommend it to people. That's the best thing you could possibly do, is to tell another person to listen to it. Because I also feel like it's so hard to convince people to listen to a podcast. I keep getting recommended ones and I'm like, oh, I'll follow it and save it and add it to the list. But setting aside an amount of time to listen to it, or otherwise putting it on when you're in the car, actively choosing for that to be your podcast is a really big thing. So if you can convince a second person or a third person, why the fuck not, to listen to this podcast, that is such a huge help. And I love you so much. I'm going to kiss you on the mouth for it. So thank you so much for that. And also, listen to Lomond Radio, because I had my first, what a whole other thing I forgot to talk about. I had my first radio show on Tuesday. I'm going to be appearing 10 to 12 every Tuesday on Lomond Radio, mid-morning music with Charlotte Wilson. Thank you to everyone who did tune in. That was really special. For everyone texting me being like, oh, Linger, I love this song. So make sure you listen to that. That's a new development in my life. She's the radio host now. It was pre-recorded. So my brother was texting me being like, oh, can you give me a shout out? And I was like, no, I did all the voiceovers on Friday last week. So keep an ear out. And also, if you do want me to play a song, give you a shout out, like, text me ahead of time, because I'll fucking do it. I'm crazy like that. I'll do it. In the meantime, I've been Poddy Wilson. This has been Podscast, and I love you.